So I'm from Canada originally, out of Thunder Bay, and yeah, did my education in Thunder Bay as well, but moved over to uh, Germany in 2020. But before that, in Ireland for a number of years. So yeah, that covers kind of my background. I have mostly experience in European regulation, U.S. and Canadian regulation, and clinical affairs, working for various manufacturers from startups. I was working with Synaptive Medical in Toronto for a couple of years, and in Ireland and Germany. But currently, our team is focused on a lot of different therapeutic areas. We have clinical expertise and clinicians on board who can support with clinical reviews and notified body kind of pre-assessments. We have people who are largely from TÜV Süd, which is a large notified body and based out of Germany, but also has US locations. And you can see we have a large portfolio of different, therapeutic areas we cover. And about us, we've been around since 2021, but I've been consulting with our founder since 2020, Dr. Basil Akra. He's well known in the regulatory field in Europe. So if you haven't heard of his name, yeah, you can Google him, and he's a very kind of motivational speaker in the field of regulatory affairs and well respected in the field. So I report to him and manage our European operation of consultants. We have a team of about 20 right now, and have offices in Landsberg am Lech, Munich, and New York. So I'll go into our services in kind of a later slide, but I think our focus is largely around kind of the development of the technical documentation and clinical documentation, but we also cover aspects like 13485, establishing your quality management system, and doing any kind of standards gap analysis or even regulatory intelligence to determine which standards are applicable to your device, what guidance, what regulation even you need to consider based on what markets you want to go into. As I said, most of our work is in the European regulatory space right now. You probably know, but since the new European regulation has come into force, it's caused a lot of kind of different issues with manufacturers, especially in terms of sufficient clinical evidence. It's even lower risk class devices require some sort of clinical evidence, whether that be actual clinical investigation data or something that's scientific literature that's covering this requirement of clinical evidence for the device. And we have a lot of experience that can help you determine what is considered sufficient clinical evidence. And through that, we offer our writing services. A lot of work for consultants in the moment is writing these clinical evaluation reports. It's yeah, at least about 50% of our business these days. It's a complex report. It requires a scientific literature review and really specific notified body requirements. And so I think if you're a small manufacturer or thinking of going to Europe, something like that is really good to get some additional help on. We also do a lot of literature searches if you need help justifying, say, transferability of data. If you have overseas data like that are generated in US or Canada, we can often help leverage that data for European market support. Additionally, we do training and education, of course, and so we can do help you develop, say, certificates if you need to show competency in specific areas like for MDR or QMS requirements, as well as development of QMS that I mentioned, and developing clinical investigations. We're not a CRO, so we don't actually execute the clinical investigations, but we can help you design them, do statistical rationales, determine what endpoints you need to cover, and even if a clinical investigation is required. So I think I wanted to mention for this group especially, we've had some new offerings lately. I think standard offerings would be, quoting on a package of work and then um, having one fixed price for a certain scope of work. But lately, manufacturers and different organizations have had a lot of interest in something like consulting as a service or subscription-based services where you can outsource, say, regulatory or quality functions, especially for small manufacturers where you only need services these uh, quality and regulatory tasks to be fulfilled at some times. You can have an external who has experience in this cover it without needing an internal resource, and then you can consider regulatory and quality from the very beginning. This is important because even in the design input phase, we gather user needs from the user to develop our medical devices, but sometimes it's forgotten about this standards or regulatory requirements. And if you're past design freeze where you're having to back justify why your design meets those requirements, you're in kind of a not a very strong position than if you consider those from the beginning. So, I have a biased point of view, but I think that regulatory and quality should be considered from the very beginning, even if you're just in the concept phase. But for kind of existing manufacturers where you are looking to go to new markets, we can definitely support with that. And I think where we really have an add value is knowing what the notified body expectations are, then you're not overdoing, which adds to additional time and costs. It can be really expensive if you design a clinical investigation incorrectly or do one unnecessarily. So anyway, these consultancy as a service or subscription-based services really have a lot of benefits in terms of flexibility. You can use, say in, I don't know, April, you need a lot of work done, but you don't need any more work done until July, then these are all possible. And the cost predictability is spread out over months, so you can, your accountant is happy, and you can, when you're, writing up grant applications, it's easy to predict what costs you'll have from a resourcing perspective. Yeah, and additionally, there's less risk for the company where you have people that can really act quickly, and you don't have potentially, a resource who may or may not have kind of experience in that particular field. But anyway, for SMEs and startups, we do offer a 20% reduction. Not to be too salesy, but we do have a 20% reduction in fees for SMEs and startups. So if you have kind of any needs in your various fields, or getting to European market or other global markets, or if you're in the initial development phase, feel free to reach out to us. I'll share my email in the chat, and yeah, happy to just discuss if you want to. There's no obligation, of course, but yeah, just feel free to reach out, even if you don't need services right now. I'm happy to talk and talk to Canadians once more. So yeah, happy to be here, and let me know if you would like to talk anymore.
Great. Thank you, Andrew. That was a great presentation. I actually didn't realize that the clinical evaluative reports was such a big bulk of a regulatory professional's job description at this point.
Yeah, definitely from a consultancy point of view, it's hard to have dedicated resources that can cover that internally, because it's such a specific task. It's really going back to university, what you've done from doing literature reviews, and a lot of regulatory professionals don't have this time or the ability to keep up to date with the expectations there. So it's a really kind of low hanging fruit to outsource, and I think it makes sense to outsource something like that.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of business coming from there currently.
Great. Yeah, it's a great service. I know that you guys do kind of a subscription-based um, structure as well. So when I had spoken to you and Basile, so yeah, if anyone, I don't know if anyone has any questions, you can. I can't quite see everyone. I might. Just gonna stop the recording now.